Hi, my name is Todd Krause. I'm a master builder at the Fender Custom Shop. I'm hanging out down here at the Music Zoo. Came here to talk about guitars, what I do, what we don't do. Hopefully mostly about what we do. I start with what I do for a living is I build custom guitars to order, which is pretty exciting. It can be frustrating, but the fun part of it is a lot of the time I get to do what I want to do. For instance, things come up for trade shows or the NAMM show, and I get to decide what I'm going to do on the guitar, or basically build a guitar for myself. I mean, what would I do for myself right now if I got to build a guitar for myself? And you know, there's different relicing processes, NOS guitars, paint jobs, neck shapes, you know, all kinds of these things that when they're put together is the ultimate machine for this job, you know, or this type of music, or my style of playing. And you know, it's all just the small little details in the mix. So we came down here today to discuss some of that stuff. What we do now is we pair the artist with two of the deciding factors are, depending on if it needs to be done immediately, the question is going to be who can do this immediately. But most importantly, who does it fit? I mean, whose type of style suits it the best? We have 8 different master builders, and they all have slightly different techniques and slightly different things that they like to do that they think is appropriate for that style of guitar, which is, to me, is what makes the custom shop so cool, is the different identities, the different personalities and stuff. So they will pair the artist up with the builder that best suits what that artist is looking for. Well, as you're aware, I mean, we've done replications of famous iconic guitars, and within the forensic part of that building is, I guess you would call it, where we're taking the guitar and dissecting it and really getting into the details. You know, like when you first see the guitar, it's like, oh, it's an old two-tone Strat, or it's an old black Strat. But when we look at it, it's like, look at that fingerboard wear. Yeah, this part here is typical, but look at this odd part down here. How did that happen? And these are all the little details that start to stand out. And on some of the guitars I've done, there's wear underneath the wear because the guitar was refinished. So first I had to finish it, wear it out, then refinish it, then wear it out again. So you've got this multi-layer of relicing and what's underneath the relicing and all these things that are going on, and fixes that were done on the road. It's like, well, this is loose here. Well, let's put another screw in it to hold it down. And then of course you open the guitar up and there's all kinds of things underneath the pickguard too that have contributed to the sound of that guitar, which also gets replicated. So all these techniques that you have to come up with to duplicate a plastic volume knob that's wore out and dirty, you know. But some of them are really cool. So each builder will kind of start to incorporate those into their relics. And there's crosstalk amongst the builders in the shop. It's like, man, I like the way that looks. Do you mind if I do that? It's like, no, go ahead. Here's how I did it, you know. And of course, when that builder does it, it comes out slightly different too, because their history of what they've seen and how it should be done, that all plays in. So it all becomes this menagerie of people's ideas as to the ultimate guitar. And all those replicas have kind of crept into all the relicing that we do. And every time we do one of those, we learn new tricks. Well, there's a lot of special ones. if we dare talk about the Katana, that was not only a really fun guitar to do, but there's no templates that exist for that. I mean, that was guitar building in its rawest form, you know. Back to the bandsaw, cut it out, belt sanders, files, block sanders, this, that, you know. I had a blast doing it. It was fun, but it was, once again, it was, I don't know if uncharted territory is what I would call it. What I would call it is unfamiliar territory. It wasn't a Strat, it wasn't a Tele, it wasn't a this or it wasn't that. It was what it is. And I did it for the NAMM shows. So I get to decide what goes on it. I get to decide what color it's going to be. I wanted to bring that guitar up because it came to this store and it didn't hang on the wall for very long. And I know the Andy Mooney, who runs Fender, he wanted it really bad. And, how the cookie crumbles. I mean, I'm making more of them. I don't want to take orders for them because I just want to build them the way I want to build them. I don't want to have to try at this point to make them to somebody else's interpretation because I'm still spoiling myself with the fun of doing it the way I want to do it. But you know, with NAMM show coming up, I've got a project I'm working on with Paul Frank. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's back at Paul Frank Industries, doing what he does, creating characters and designing things. I'm hoping to get something, I guess you would call it a Paul Frank Paisley design. I'm hoping to get something like that at NAMM. I have a Telecaster that's kind of mahogany. It's mahogany-based Telecaster, kind of based on what I think would be a really good classic rock combination of mahogany humbuckers and single coils and Telecasters and that kind of thing, to where I like to think of it as this is the Telecaster Jimmy Page wanted, because it's got everything in it that all in one. Not that on the same hand as I don't like to try to make all-in-one things, but that's the only way I can describe it. I'm a guitar collector as well as a builder, and I like to think there is no one guitar for all the jobs, because that's the only way I can justify having a collection, is like, well, no, you need the right wrench for that, and it's part of the fun. We used to hoard wood more than we do now. The reason we don't hoard it as much now is because we have a hoard, so to speak. I mean, we have a cache or a pile of like really cool stuff, whether it be maples or mahoganies or exotic this or exotic that. We're kind of spoiled. I mean, because when I go out to the wood pile to look for wood, 5 other people have looked through that, and I'm not saying I'm getting what leftovers. 5 people made sure it was good enough to take it to the next level. We wouldn't accept that as custom shop wood if it wasn't the best we can get at the moment in the first place. So it's been inspected by several people before it even gets into that room. So I just get to go in there and just, find the right piece for what I'm looking for that is just amazing for this or amazing for that. Having said that, like I said, depending on the builder, that's all different opinions. Some people like highly figured, I like subtly figured. I know that kind of defeats the purpose, but that's what turns me on, and it's just personal preference. Guitars, basses, No, I think once again, given the choice to build a guitar for myself, I would say it comes down to mostly Strats, mostly 50s Strats. Doesn't mean I don't like Teles. I wouldn't mind having a Tele or two, but I find myself, for some reason, I like the 59 Strat has always been the one I gravitate to, just because I can justify certain things with it. I can go one way or the other. But that's just me. You know, another builder will like I said, I brought up Dennis. He loves to build Jaguars and Jazzmasters. Paul Waller and Jason Smith, you know, they love to build basses. They've both been pretty innovative with basses. I like building basses too, but having given the choice, you know, today, right here, right now, what would you build for yourself? It would be some form of a 59 Strat with shielded pickups and all the things that I favor right now. You know, what's it going to be in 5 years? I don't know, you know, but to me, that's what makes guitar so cool. It's just this evolving, this thing, and then you get to a certain point, and then you wait a minute, then you go back to this, and that gets added. And that's all the fun. That's what custom guitars are. I mean, it's just the constant hot rodding of the basic model, and then just all the things that you can do to it to tailor it to fit a certain need.